Yeah, sure. Yeah, it would.
But the process would be teachable.
Teachable moments. Don't use charm on Boo.
Right.
Or on anybody.
So yeah, you guys, you had your opening, and then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked, and yeah.
Well, one of our orphans got really hurt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The orphans got
That
traumatized.
was-
Yep.
That was what, Jenks that got really hurt?
Yes, I believe that is correct. And then, well, yeah, orphans got hurt. Horace lost a hand.
Oh yeah.
And there was like some other people that you had talked to that had been injured.
A lot of people.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who died. There was the gnome that you found out a little bit about when Raynar showed up. Because Raynar said that he had gotten a note from this associate of his father, this gnome named Dalkar, who said he had something very important to speak with him about, and now he is dead. And a lot of people were talking about seeing some sort of strange mechanical man on the roof, and that they had, seemingly thrown something down right before the explosion, and then after the explosion they'd gone in and taken something off of this gnome.
I forget, did we find out that the gnome was like serving one of the noble houses or something like that?
He worked.
Say what now?
Oh,
go ahead and ask that.
Sorry.
I
I asked,
didn't
we find out that the gnome worked for some like noble house or something? Like I remember he like was important somehow.
Yeah, he worked for Raynar's dad, who we have earlier learned used to be a Lord of Waterdeep, and then at some point embezzled like 1 million gold dragons from the city and disappeared. It hasn't been seen for some time. Raynar told you this when you first rescued him a long time ago.
Man, I wish I was rich enough to deal in dragons.
Right?
Well, they're coins. They're not like an actual dragon.
It's still so
You
much
just
cooler than
ruined
anything.
it! I was imagining him like bartering in real gold dragons.
That would be quite a sight.
I hope you guys are ready to fight 1 million gold dragons at once.
Bring it, bitch.
We're just gonna befriend them, and then we'll have 1 million gold dragons.
But yeah, the gnome worked for Dagalt Neverember, who is Raynar's estranged father, and Raynar said he hadn't seen him for at least a few months, and yeah, that's pretty much where we left off. We gotten some information from around. I think the music is coming out of your main speakers, then. I can hear it. It's doubling. Anyways, so we had the investigation, or the investigation started. The guard showed up partway along, because of all the commotion and the dead people and stuff. And you spoke with, a couple of the city guard detectives that were kind of around and starting to get some information about the case. They, of course, encouraged you to leave it to the city guard to figure out what was going on and don't take matters into your own hands, which you all will, of course, ignore, because that's just how things go.
Naturally.
But important question.
Yeah.
Can I imagine that the two detectives are those two mustachioed detectives from Cora who really liked the jelly donuts?
You can if you want, sure.
Yes.
But yeah, So your main leads, I guess, right now, just to remind you, are this gnome that is dead and was trying to meet with Raynar about something important, and then this mechanical man who people saw chuck the fireball. And those are your kind of two main threads that you found out right now, at least from asking around the survivors last time. So I mean, pretty much where we left off, like you guys are all still pretty much out here, and it's probably a little later in the evening now. There's been, the guard has showed up more in force. They'd already cordoned off the area, but they're kind of trying to do more to try to keep people away from the crime scene, and like even you guys as well. They've kind of pushed you back, and you guys are all kind of almost up on like the front porch of Troll School Manor. Like they've let you stay there, of course, since you live there. But they've been trying to push everyone back and kind of get a kind of a wide berth around the crime scene here to try to continue their investigations.
Jinku is inside with the kids, just trying to keep their minds occupied on something besides the trauma that just befell them.
Okay. Fair.
Mix is in the basement. Lou is just kind of pacing in the common room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, like, as the evening wears on, and you guys are just trying to, piece together in your minds what had happened here, and just try to make sense of what's going on. You hear kind of an urgent tapping at one of the windows, Boo, and you kind of see through the somewhat foggy glass, like kind of a hand waving and kind of tapping at the window.
I will take out my wand of magic missiles and ready it. If I do not recognize the person, I will use it.
Okay. So you just head over and open the door then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Boo, you head over and open the front door, and you find the kind of distraught face of Broxley Fairkettle, the guild master of the Guild of Innkeeps and Taverns. And he seems a bit out of breath, and, kind of like most of you and most of the people in the area, seems a bit distraught at the events that had happened. And, he sees you open the door, and he says, "Oh, thank goodness. I'm glad to see that you are safe. What a way to start the opening. My goodness. My condolences to all of you."
Well, condolences don't fix business or bring lives back. What are you here for?
Well, I mean, given that this happened on your opening night, and the excitement about the Troll Skull Manor returning, and of course, we'd like to make sure that this becomes a flourishing business here in the area. I just wanted to let you know I've met with some of the other leaders in the guild, and I managed to slip my way over here past the barricade to let you know that we are going to forego your dues for the Guild of Innkeepers for the next several months at least, to kind of give you some time to recover. We would hate to see you go under on our account.
Yeah. I'd hate to go under because of dues from a guild that I'm forced to join. That would be terrible.
And Broxley kind of lets out somewhat of a nervous chuckle and says, "Yes, well, that is understandable, but these are unfortunate circumstances, and we wish you the best. And of course, if there's anything that we can do to assist, And I've managed to contact at least some of the staff, and they are more than willing to return and continue to work. And I'll try to keep in touch with the others as well. But as far as I know, at least in terms of the functional day-to-day of the tavern, you should be able to keep running. I just hope that what has happened won't scare away the foot traffic. I wish you all the best.
I'm sure you do.
And he kind of nods solemnly and kind of looks around, keeping an eye out for the guards that are kind of patrolling the area. And you can see him kind of slip along the side of the house back towards the main street. I try to head back to his house. Do you guys probably just turn in for the night tonight, or is there anything that you wanted to check into right away?
I'll spend a couple hours. Well, not a couple hours. Takes a minute. A couple minutes. Casting alarm on every entrance to the house.
Okay.
To the tavern.
Sure.
And I'll sleep in the tavern room.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think Sayara is going to stay with the kids all night to make sure that she's there for additional healing as necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the kids seem to be doing all right, given the circumstances. I mean, being brought back into the tavern with all of you, and at least seeing that all of you are okay, that seems to have comforted them somewhat. But of course, it still was a bit of a traumatic experience, and now and then there are still some sobs. But at least with your company and the warmth of the fire, they seem to be at least on their way, perhaps in some way, to feeling a little bit better.
Imagine Jinku probably is pacing around the house, checks in on the kids, is kind of just going room to room, level to level, can't really sleep, just checking on things.
Okay.
It's a good way to get yourself shot. Coming down here.
I imagine I probably told you that I was doing this. After the first time of probably almost getting hit.
Fair.
Mix is going to go down to his lab and start going through his books to see if there's a potion that can help the children deal with their trauma better.
Okay. Not sure if there are potions of psychological healing, but perhaps there might be.
Wipe the day.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, there's something. Let me see. Actually, let me see really quick.
That never leads to problems at all.
Let me see, how, if there's any information about how. I mean, I'm guessing that's probably more of an advanced potion. Let me see what I can find. There is a spell. There is a spell called Modify Memory, which is a 5th level enchantment. So I would say there's probably some way to kind of concoct a similar thing from that. But the potion I would warrant would be a similar level to the actual spell. So you could certainly research into that, but I would say at this point you probably wouldn't be able to fully grasp that level of potion making yet if you're trying to make some sort of elixir of that enchantment. That's a little higher tier than what you can understand right now. But you're finding mentions about it, at least in some of your books, so it's possibly possible. So we'll give you that at least. All right, so the night passes, and nothing further of particular interest happens. Another regular night in Waterdeep for the most part. And you awake in the morning, The alarms that you had set around the doors are all still in place. Looking outside, you can still see that there's contingents of guards that have kind of continued cordoning off the area. They've been patrolling in shifts throughout the night to keep the passerby away. And it is the next morning. Still a little bit silent out in the courtyard of Troll School Alley. The usual bustle of some small carts and people going about their businesses there with the guards in play, and the area still kind of on lockdown. But you are at least able to leave if you need to. The guards are willing to, of course, let you out of the area and understand that you live here. But if you do try to go over and look more at the scene, they might come after you. So.
I suppose we probably offered Torte. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yep.
We probably offered Torte a room, or inquired if he needed one. After all of that,
See him with his amphibious bag out in front by the front door, just popped open, chilling.
Torte, get in here. You don't want to be hanging out there all night. You never know when a fireball will appear. Apparently, the guard can't keep everybody safe, so it's best to be inside.
He'll just kind of croak and put his captain away.
Well, lesson number 1 about Waterdeep: never trust the guard.
Or at least, never trust people dressed as the guard, as you guys have experienced.
That's lesson number 2.
Ah. All right. So what do you guys get up to today? You got a few things you found out and try to follow up on. What are you guys going to try to do about this situation?
What do you guys think our first steps are here in figuring out who did this and then bringing them back here to stay for a while?
Breakfast is the most important part of the day. We should get some good tarts, and then we can start our investigation.
You know what? I could go for some tarts. I'm okay with that. Let's go find some.
Alright, so you all make your way out of Troll School Manor and into the streets of Waterdeep. And if you're looking for tarts, Tortor would probably be the one to ask. They're the ones with that knowledge. So I assume you'd probably let Torta lead you to wherever their nearest favorite tart location is.
They call to him with their pastry siren song.
You said the lady that brought the torts from last evening, she's not actually like a bakery, she's an herb shop?
Yeah, she is the herb shop. Actually, I'll show you the neighborhood again. So the greenhouse looking place, kind of right in the middle of Troll School Alley map there. That's Coralyn's Crown. That's Paula Leffelier's shop, and she's like an herbalist. But she bakes on the side. She's the one who made those tarts last night. She just kind of bakes for fun on her own time, so she doesn't have like an actual bakery. But there's probably other ones around. I mean, you live in the North Ward as well, or have spent plenty of time in the North Ward as well. So you probably have a few spots that you know.
Yeah, we'll just go to my favorite spot.
All right. Let's see where that would be. All right. You would know there. You head through the North Ward here, and you know that there is a shop nearby that you've enjoyed before. Hurriyat's Fine Pastries, which is a pretty bustling place as you all kind of come up to it. Locals line up here. quite a bit in the early hours of the morning, as the smells from the place kind of waft throughout the street that it's on. These just delicious, sweet flavors, kind of just alerting the whole neighborhood that there's something new coming out of the oven, and people just line up to get them. Along with their tarts, which are quite good. They're also known for their savory pasties, so things like kind of meat pies and things like that as well. And they are especially known for their among their tarts, the ones they are especially known for are their almond and apple sugar tarts that are a copper piece each. So you guys make your way over to Hriat's with Torta in the lead, happily leading along. And you manage to make your way inside the baker after a little bit of a wait from the line outside of other patrons, and manage to acquire some pastries. He also sells these fine cloth belt towels along with his pastries, because most of his wares here in this shop are kind of made for taking and eating as one walks along on the street. And to help with that, and to help keep the hands clean, he sells these fine kind of cloth towels that you're able to attach onto your belt. Torta probably already has one, I would assume.
I'll buy a towel.
Oh, Mix is all about that. He's got to keep his clothes clean.
You never go anywhere without your towel to begin with.
Exactly. All right. So with the towel and the tarts, I think probably all of you, there's probably 4 copper pieces each. Not a whole lot. So feel free to take that out of your inventories. And you guys managed to make it back out in the street with your delicious tarts wrapped snugly in your handy hand towels, and make your way down the street, happily munching your breakfasts.
I'll pay for everybody's breakfast this morning.
Nice. All right.
Mix is going to buy extra tarts. So how much would 10 extra tarts be wrapped?
Well, each tart, well, they come with kind of a light wrap on them. The towels are just kind of an extra thing, as more of a ease of holding while walking. But the tarts are 1 copper a piece. So if you're buying 10, they're just 10 copper for the lot. And with that many, he kind of boxes them up in kind of a small carrying box for you there.
Mix is going to put them in his pouch and nibble on the tart that Blue bought, just smiling.
In terms of the wealth Torta, I can't remember exactly what we started with, because we've had a lot of money changing hands so far earlier, but I think we all had, I want to say we probably all started with at least 100 or 200 gold. Like, we had a fair amount to begin with. Yeah, I forgot to get that figured out for you, Torta. But yeah, I'd say probably somewhere around there seems a reasonable amount to start with. I mean, at least looking across everybody's sheets, if I factor out some of the stuff that's there for buying the repairs, it'd probably work out to be about that much. So somewhere in that area, whatever you want to do. I'm not super stringent about money.
That sounds like a lot of tarts.
But it just went 150.
Okay, that works. All right. Well, you got food in your stomachs now. Perhaps a little more power to the old brain. And you're on the streets of Waterdeep. Happily, cleaning your fingers. Well, actually not cleaning your fingers off because you all have handy towels, but maybe cleaning some of the...
Not Jinku. Jinku is gladly just licking it all off her fingers. She don't give a crap.
Jinku's messy eating. The rest of you are fine.
She doesn't need no fancy towel.
All right. Where will thou head? or I guess maybe not where will you go because you don't really know, but what are you wanting to look into?
And running into the gnome on the way there, and
Yeah.
that I kind of remember him being with the prince at some point.
Yeah. So yeah, you did run into that gnome on the street near, near where you were at on the way in that morning. And then yeah, he worked for Raynar Neverember, who was the son of a former Lord of Waterdeep. He worked for that former Lord of Waterdeep, Dagalt Neverember, in the past.
And we didn't talk to Raynar last night, right?
You did talk to Raynar a little bit. He was the one who told you about Dalakar, the gnome.
Oh, that's right.
Because he showed up probably about 15-20 minutes after the explosion occurred, as he was heading to Troll Skull to join in the festivities of you guys opening up, and then also he had gotten this note from Dalakar about something important that he needed to talk to him about, and so they had arranged some sort of meeting at Troll Skull, and he was supposed to meet him there, and then he showed up, and all that had happened, but he was able to identify who the gnome was.
I'm kind of stumped on what to do, where we should start looking, guys. What do you think?
Maybe follow the first lead and see what he was working on. Like what got him in this trouble.
I mean, it's better than anything I've got right now.
Okay. So would you say with that you'd probably, maybe try to go see Raynar and see if he knows anything else?
Yeah, if there's any shops that sell because I think we had talked and determined that the creature was a warforged, right? And some shops sell them or something here. Very expensive, but they sell them, right?
Oh, the Mechanical Man. The Mechanical Man
Yeah.
is a... Well, you aren't quite sure what they're called. They're not a Warforged, but they... You recall... Well, from the discussion you guys had with the two detectives who came from the City Guard, you remember seeing one of these constructs at the parade the other day. There was one that was in part of the procession. There were all these kind of large clockwork fish that were swimming around in this conjured water from some sorcerers. And there was this mechanical man in kind of the middle of it all who seemed to be kind of directing these clockwork fish. And at one point was kind of riding on them and some point during the parade. But that came up in conversation with the investigators the other day when you were talking to people, and people were mentioning some sort of spindly looking mechanical man that had thrown the fireball, or at least the necklace bead thing that cast the fireball, and then rummaged something off the gnome and then fled. So in terms of where you saw that and what you know about what those are, the only kind of lead you have on that is that parade. You remember seeing something of a similar sort at the parade. And then, so that would be probably the way to go if you're wanting to look into that construct. And then if you're wanting to look into the gnome, at the moment, Raynar would probably be the best one to go and see if he has any other information about this gnome that his father employed.
All right.
We could always visit Blackstaff as well to inquire if they know anything about this metallic being.
Yeah, they might have information about these kinds of constructs at the Blackstaff Tower.
Did we get the necklace itself?
Yeah, well,
I know we found the bead.
you found the bead. Let me double check something really quick. So you did find the bead, and I would say probably because that bead came up in conversation with the city guard investigators, and they probably took that bead off of you. But the necklace, you did find. Yeah, you did find that. I can't remember who found it. I think it was Boo. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But it was in like a water barrel nearby. Like it had been like either tossed or fallen into, and it was in like a rain downspout water barrel.
Try to investigate if anybody knows where this was made, or maybe who would be able to acquire these type of artifacts.
Yeah, that's something.
Good idea, Torte.
Thanks.
Those tarts are brain food, you know.
They got almonds in them.
Apparently.
The Grung are very lawful and, you know, prideful people on their investigatory skills. So, not something I particularly fancy myself.
Well, let's go ahead and talk to Raynar. And he could probably help us find places that might be able to create something like this and whatnot.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. All right. So you all head off to Raynar Neverember's place, which, if I remember right, I think he's in the North Ward too. Let me double check. Yeah, he's in the North Ward as well. So you head over to Raynar's house, and he is there. You're let in by his butler, and he's in the house. Looks like he recently finished up his breakfast as well, and he's kind of just busying himself with various things. But he's glad to see you come in. And you all arrive, and he says, "Oh, well, I know with all the events yesterday, I'm glad to see you all are still safe. What brings you here? What can I do for you? Did you find anything else out?"
Well, I mean, I don't know if you agree or not, but it seems like your friend might have been the target of this attack. It doesn't seem like our establishment itself was the target of the attack, right?
I mean, it seems that way to me. I mean, he had sent a note to me, a few days prior, that he wanted to meet with me about something important regarding my father. And my father has had many underhanded dealings in the past, suffice it to say. And so I would not be surprised if it was something important related to my father. Perhaps other forces were at work as well. Who that might be, I'm not really sure. I'm afraid I'm not too familiar with all the dealings my father had. I just know some of them may not have been the best.
Yes, obviously, if the dealings got people killed near our establishment, it probably wasn't the best.
And Raynar kind of thinks for a moment. He says, "Oh, well, I'm not sure if this would help at all, but when I received the note from Dalakar a few days ago, uh, the courier who delivered it said it was from where he was staying at the Inn of the Dripping Dagger, which I believe is down in the southern part of town somewhere. Perhaps if you're able to find where he was staying down there, maybe there's something more in his room." I sent a note back to him, actually. I sent a note in reply that I was wanting to meet him there at Trollskull, the meeting that we had arranged last night. I assume he probably got my note if he was coming there, and, evidently died. But hopefully that is of some use to you.
Yes, yes, that will help. Also, this was found at the scene of the attack. Do you know where one might be able to acquire a magical item such as this? And I'll show him that bead.
Okay. He kind of looks this over and kind of thinks for a moment and says, "Well, I can't say that I'm particularly familiar with the workings of magic, and especially magic imbued jewelry such as this, but I feel like I've seen jewelry of this type in various magical shops around town. It's somewhat common, I would say. I don't think it's anything particularly rare, but who made it or anything like that, I'm afraid that's just something I do not know."
Huh. Well, thanks anyway.
Certainly.
I guess we ought to go check out this little gnome's room and see what we might find. What do you guys think?
Please, and let me know how it turns out.
Seems as good a place to start as any.
Yep.
Alright. So you guys make your way down to the southern end of town?
Yeah.
Okay. As you guys are heading down there, roll. I mean, you guys are probably going to be asking around a little bit, just trying to find out where this inn is. So go ahead, a couple of you roll an investigation check as you guys are kind of asking around, seeing if you get any info on this inn from the people of Waterdeep. Okay. Alright, so as you're kind of asking around some of the various people on the street down there, you guys are currently kind of around in the trades ward area of Waterdeep. It's somewhat near the area where you were a few days ago. It seems that there's still some cleanup going on in the area where the fire was at. From some of the people you asked, they just kind of make commentary about this fire that happened in the area, and they were glad that such and such shop was still there and that so and so friend was safe. But Mix, you managed to find someone who says, "Ah, yes, the Inn of the Dripping Dagger. I drink there sometimes. They have a good ale. You can find them on the southern end of the trades ward." And he kind of points the way to you on a couple cross streets down to the south and wishes you well on your way. And as you guys kind of head off, he kind of calls to you, "Try the ale, it's wonderful."
Mix is gonna call out to Boo. Hey, come on, dum dum. I found the way.
Someday I'm going to kill you, Mix, and it's going to be fun.
Not if I kill you first.
All right. So you guys make it down to the area of the Inn of the Dripping Dagger. You're able to pick it out from the sign on the front, which has kind of a inlaid kind of carving of a dagger, and it looks like they've actually inlaid metal on the blade and the sign, and there's kind of dark red drops kind of coming off the tip of it. And it's a kind of a small place, kind of a small rectangular inn. It has some stables nearby in the alley. You step inside, and inside you find the typical kind of kitchen and meeting room in most taverns. And there's 2 levels of guest rooms above, like from the street. This thing's about, it's not a very large building, foot space wise, but it goes up a few floors. You can see that there's the guest rooms up above. You step in and you see kind of a thin human male with kind of a nice, kind of thick, almost unkempt beard, and he kind of calls out to you as you walk in and says, "Ho, travelers! What'll it be?"
Well, we're looking for, well, a friend of ours was staying here, and he has decided to leave unexpectedly, and so we were just hoping to collect some of his things from his room and hold on to them until he returns.
Oh, of course. Who might you be looking for?
Did we ever learn his name?
Dalakar.
Dalakar. He's a gnome. Nice little guy.
Ah, the gnome, yes. He stayed here for a few nights recently. I haven't seen him for a day or so. He's kind of behind a little bit on his dues for his room. I hope all is well with him, but if you need to take his things and can, settle the day's bill for him, you can certainly let that be on your way. Free up another room for another customer.
Of course. What's the cost?
Well, it'll be the previous. It'd just be the previous night. It looks like that I haven't seen him and he hasn't paid his bill for. So, just a silver piece. We aren't a particularly fancy establishment. We service the travelers that come through town. So, hopefully that is agreeable.
Of course. I'll fetch out like 5 silver and give him over. I appreciate your discretion here.
And he kind of takes the extra silver with kind of a glint in his eye and says, "Ah, yes, of course. I am well versed in that kind of situation. I understand, my friend."
What room did you say he's in again?
He was up on the second floor, the last room on the right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, guys. Let's collect our friends' things here and make sure we get them safely stored.
So you all head upstairs and make your way down to the last room on the right on the second floor. And you get the door open, and looking around the room here, you go ahead and roll an investigation check as you're kind of looking around.
Jesus Christ, I can't roll tonight.
Distracted. What happened to the kids and stuff?
It's been a week. So the first thing you notice when you all walk into the room, and especially more as you kind of try to look around and see what you can find, is that the room seems to be almost scrubbed clean in a very professional manner. All except for on the bed, sitting in plain sight on the pillowcase, is a round disc of black stones, pitch black stone, which is painted with a golden symbol in kind of the style of, it almost looks somewhat like a sun, but it's a circle with a few of these extending spokes out the side on this pitch black small circle of some kind of stone. Aside from that, on the pillow, most of the rest of the room is like I said, is quite professionally cleaned. Mix and Boo and Torta, as you guys are looking around, you see that the oil lamp that is on the little desk in this room looks to have a small pile of ash in the base of the kind of oil lamp stand, almost like something small had been burned and then disintegrated into ash there in the tray. But aside from that and the stone, everything else is almost spotless.
Does Mix know any alchemy that he can use to reconstitute something?
Let's see. Let's take a look.
If not, he is going to take the paper scraps and experiment on them so he can see what was written on them.
You're gonna do what?
I said if not, he's going to package up the paper scraps real carefully and experiment with alchemy on them.
Okay.
Back in his...
Well, there aren't any scraps. Like it's literally just a pile of ashes. But in terms of what, let's kind of look through here. I don't think at the moment any of you have anything in particular that is able to reconstitute something burned like that. I don't think. Doesn't look like it. But
he's going to take his fine linen towel
Mhm.
this morning, and he's going to carefully pour these ashes in there, and then wrap them with delicate care before putting them in his pack. And he's going to make sure that he goes to the bookstore on Troll Skull Alley to ask and see if he can find a book on how to make this reappear.
Okay, sure. Yeah, you can do that. Carry the ashes with you until you figure out some way to reconstitute them.
Can I take a closer look at this disc?
Yeah. So, Boo, you kind of head over and then look at this disc, and you recognize this symbol pretty quickly. This symbol you have seen before. This is the symbol that is used, the stylized symbol of the Xanathar clan. And roll a history check for me to see if you know what this disc means. Okay. So, from what you know about the Xanathar's Guild, you know that black stones like this were often left as a threat of death or impending death. Almost like if you've have heard like kind of like the black spot for in pirate lore, where you get a piece of paper with a black spot and then you know that you're gonna die. That sort of thing. So it's somewhat of some kind of a threat.
Interesting. I'll point this out. It appears maybe the Xanathars had some hand in this. Or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know this is a relic of, or something they use.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
And you all do know that the Zents were also involved. Some of the bodies that were at the scene last night when you were checking them had the Zentarim black snake tattoos. A couple of the cloaked figures that were near the gnome that had perished. So it seems there are maybe a few forces at work.
Well, I would like to join the Xanathars, mostly because they oppose the Zents. If we do find out that they were the cause of this, we'll have to eradicate them too. What do you guys think we should do with this information that we have gathered here?
So my understanding is it's a calling card, right? Basically.
Yeah, that would be a good way to put it. Is it's kind of a calling card of sorts. Is hey, you're going to die soon.
If we take it to the guild, they should know who issued it.
To the
I'm not
Which
aware of how
guild?
to contact the Xanathars, though. We have
It's unlikely
somebody...
that the Xanathar Guild will talk to us as we're not one of their own.
well,
That dwarf didn't want to talk to us.
no, the dwarf was interested in talking to you, but he didn't really realize that you guys weren't a huge part of it. But I don't think I don't think I explained this part to you, Raki. The Xanathars and the Zentrum, things like that. These are all gangs, kind of underworld gangs in Waterdeep. Like they consider themselves a guild, but they are a criminal gang, and
Right.
a lot of the trouble recently that the parties run into and across quite a few of the sessions has involved the Zents and Xanathars who have a feud with each other of some kind that has been going on for a while. But you don't really have the details on that front. But yeah, they're not just like a regular well-to-do guild in town. They're underworld.
We did have a friend that we met and kind of let him know that I let him know I was interested in learning more about the Xanathars, but they have yet to speak with us, or me.
Yes. Ought.
But if we could get in contact with them somehow, that might, that would be, we have some questions to ask them. I just don't know how to contact them.
For now, I suppose we could always take this information to Blackstaff and try and find out more about this creature.
Good
As we
idea.
have no other way of contacting Xanathars.
Well, I mean, that's about as good a suggestion as any. You guys agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. So you collect this black disc, and then of course Mix has his carefully wrapped remains of something that had burned in the oil lamp. But other than that, there are no other belongings in the room. But you head back downstairs, and the innkeeper, sees you coming back down and says, "Well, were you able to collect everything you needed?"
Yes. The room was unusually clean. No offense, innkeeper. Do you have a cleaning service that comes in?
No, I can't say that I do. And in terms of cleaning the rooms, I usually don't do that until someone is checked out.
Interesting.
Does anybody approach his room?
Not that I am aware of. I mean, each night we have our usual fare of tavern goers that come in and drink and revel themselves, but I don't recall anyone going upstairs. But, of course, I busy myself here out in front of the bar and in the back in the kitchen, so I can't really say for sure. And if you like, I can, keep an eye out. What was the name of your friend? I can see if anything else, if I hear anything else come and give you word.
My name is Boo. You can find me at. You can leave messages for us at the Troll Skull Manor. That's where we're staying right now.
Ah, oh, I feel like I heard something happen there last night. What? It's all well in that part of town. I'm afraid I don't get up to the North Ward very often.
Yeah, it was a pretty quiet evening. I'm not sure of anything happening. You guys hear anything happening outside of the inn we're staying at last night?
No, nothing at all.
No, can't recall anything.
Well, I mean, that part of town is all rich snobs, anyways, of course. No offense to any of you, but of course, if I hear anything more about your gnome friend, I'll be sure to send word.
Please do, and I'll give him another silver piece.
Kind of takes it appreciatingly and lets you go about your business. All right. Did y'all make your way over to the Blackstaff? Is where you guys were heading now?
That's where Zara wants to go. I will follow.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you all head off over to the Blackstaff Tower, where you've been before, and the Grey Force is happy to let you inside. And you find yourself again on the first floor of the tower, which, still, even after being here multiple times, is still kind of almost a bit disconcerting to be inside, since it seems larger on the inside than the outside. But you have quite a expansive library of knowledge here. If you're looking to research, see what you can find. There's many various mage patrons around that service the library that, of course, you can ask.
Yeah. I'm not sure what Zara's up doing here, but I'll go to the library and ask if they have any books on like magical tattoos.
All right. The patron kind of looks kind of down at you and kind of peers over their glasses and says, "Yes, right this way. Follow me." And he kind of leads you off to some part of the library with various books on kind of arcane art and ways to go about it. Zaire, are you kind of trying to find out more about this mechanical construct?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so you kind of head over to the nearest patron. He's kind of standing behind a desk, seems to be kind of sorting through some paperwork. And he looks up at you and says, "Ah, yes, how can I assist you today?"
I'm looking for information on uh, metal living constructs.
Ah, you're looking to summon one as a familiar or something?
Um, I'm looking for information on different types, like what different types there are and their uses.
Okay, so ones that are more of a technological means than perhaps a summoning means, it sounds like.
Yes, I believe that would be right.
Of course, of course. Let me take a look here. And he turns around, and you see him kind of going through some kind of filing drawers, searching for some information here. And he pulls out a little card and says, "Yes, follow me." And he leads you to a wing of the library and starts kind of looking across the books on the shelf and pulls one out and hands it over to you here.
Hmm.
And you see that this is a book on the subject of technomancy. And he kind of hands this to you and says, "Well, there's a number of things in this tome, but if you're looking for technological constructs, the technomancers of Luskan are well known for their abilities in this area. So perhaps you may find something of use in this."
I'm sure this will be a great start. Thank you.
And he kind of curtly bows and heads back to his desk.
Mix is gonna inquire about any alchemy or magical scrolls that could reconstitute something that has been burnt?
Yes, of course. Well, it's what is it that you're wanting to reconstitute? If it's not too much trouble, I may be able to assist you with that right here.
Mix is going to pull out the carefully wrapped contents, very gently opening it up and showing it to him.
Okay. And he kind of looks over his ash, and he actually kind of pulls out a little kind of looking glass thing, kind of affixes it to one of his lenses here, and kind of leans in, peering over this pile of ash, and says, looks like perhaps a bit of burnt paper. This shouldn't be too much trouble. Just a moment here, and you see him kind of move his hands a little bit and utter some words, and you see this kind of pile of ash start to swirl and eventually reconstitutes into kind of a rough looking piece of paper. And looking it over, you see that this appears to be the note that Raynar had written in reply to Dalakar, and saying that he would be happy to set up a meeting and that he would love to see him at the inn of his friends at the Troll School Manor on the morrow. He would see you that night.
Mix is going to toss a gold piece to the gentleman who did this for him and bow and say, "Thank you very much. This is more help than you'll ever need."
And he kind of smiles in response and says, "Well, I can't say we usually do this for a cost, but he kind of grins a little bit and says, I'll take it. Thank you for the appreciation." There, I assume you're over here kind of poring over this book, seeing what you can find out.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So you look through this book, which goes over a lot of kind of information about this clan of technomancers based out of the city of Luskan, up in the northern part of Faerun, and that they are well known for the creation of constructs that they call nimblerites. And these nimblerites, they are kind of based on these ancient designs that they discovered in their research up there. And usually they, let's see here. It mentions that like each nimblewrite is almost a bit of a work of art. They're all unique, and usually when they are crafted, their appearance is kind of tailored to the buyer of them, and so each of them has like a unique appearance about them, whether it's like their hair or their face or other parts of their body. It can all be customized, either kind of clockwork, somewhat arcane infused mechanical beings that they construct. And oftentimes these days they are kind of sold as curiosities almost to collectors and the rich. Usually they're quite expensive, upwards of 100,000 gold pieces or more for one. Oftentimes they are employed as servants or help or something of that sort. They do possess a modicum of intelligence on their own. They are able to kind of function as their own person in some ways, but yeah, they're somewhat of a clockwork companion curiosity.
So you said that they have like a limited intelligence of their own, but when it comes to like doing things like actions, do they work on commands, or can they be controlled like remotely, or is it a spell, or does the book say anything about that?
So you do. Let's see here.
I'm just making you work tonight.
So, like, they are able to, function as their own individual self, but they do respond to commands as well. So if the person who has ownership over them, commands them to do things or have them work on a certain way, they will. Um, so they are, they're somewhat autonomous, but they do take orders when needed. I guess would be the way to put it.
So kind of like a golem type
Kind of like
thing.
golems are like they're much more intelligent than golems. Like I would say like intelligence wise, usually a nimblewright is somewhat comparable to say like a teenage human. So like they can function on their own. They sometimes can be creative. They have their own semblance of life, whatever that is. But they are still a construct, and they do take orders and commands if need be.
Okay. I guess I'm going to wander until I find the first person from the party.
Okay.
And I'll relay what I learned from this book to them.
Okay.
Mix is going to be waiting by the entrance for everybody to reconvene before he shows what he's discovered.
Okay. So are you all probably kind of getting back together after your various avenues of research here? Okay.
Yeah.
So you all kind of reconvene at the entrance to Blackstaff and trade the information that you have with each other. Where do you go from here? A little bit more about these nimble rights, as they're called. You do, of course, remember seeing one at the parade. That's about the only thing you know in terms of who might have one around here at the moment. And then, of course, you have the note that Mixie managed to get reconstituted. So,
Mix is going to suggest that they go and question the person that this gnome was supposed to meet.
We already did that.
Raynar?
Yeah, that was Raynar. He told us about that note and sent us to the inn. I feel like Raynar's being pretty honest with us.
Well, if he didn't want us to know he was connected to the gnome, he wouldn't have told us that he was there to meet him and that he was acting weird when he approached him. So I think Zayara begrudgingly trusts him on this as well.
I guess, Sarah, roll an insight check for me, and we'll kind of see what kind of read you get thinking about Raynar and what he's interacted with you. Okay.
I'm very insightful.
So, from your interactions with Raynar, and all the times you've met with him since the beginning of the campaign, he seems a pretty sincere person. and he seems to consider you guys good friends. From the rescue that you guys got him out of his kind of pickle at the beginning of the campaign, and everything else. Like he owes his life to you guys. So he, as far as you can tell, Sarah, you feel like he has been, quite honest with you all in all of his dealings. He's happy to help you out in whatever way he can because he owes you guys his life.
Yeah, he does.
He owes us a gold dragon too.
What do you guys think we ought to look at next?
Boo. Let's not be combative here. Let's put our heads together. We've worked together my entire life and yours. With this note and the knowledge that we've gained, who would have the capabilities of creating this golem-like creature? We saw one in the parade. We know we could probably find out who had it. Maybe we can track down the culprit and find out.
Well,
who
they don't
had them
necessarily
stolen.
need to have the knowledge to create one as long as they have the money.
The knowledge and the money is a very short list in this town.
True.
Where do you think we should go, Mix?
I honestly think we should go to the coordinator of the parade and find out who put that creature into the parade, and then we can start from there. Maybe eliminate them as a suspect.
That seems like a good course.
And we're already slightly familiar with that person, I believe, as we robbed them of their handkerchief.
Yes, perhaps it would be smart to have just you and Boo go and talk to them with
Yeah.
with Torta, and Jinku and I can stay outside.
I very much agree with that.
Maybe we can convince him to lick Torta and get him intoxicated.
You like being licked by random people, Torta?
Not so much.
Yes, let's not use our new friend as a weapon against strangers.
As a lollipop against strangers.
Mix is gonna hold up one of the tin torts and go, "Are you sure, Torta? This could be yours if you agree."
I'll walk up and snatch the tart and kind of hit the back of my hand and activate the gold ability.
Which one was that one?
Charmed.
Okay. And that's what is it, a con save? Right?
Wisdom. I
Or
think.
wisdom.
Your wisdom
Okay.
12.
Alright, Mix, give me a wisdom save. Well, you see Torta kind of friendly slaps you here as he takes this tart, but that's about all you get out of it. Just a slap.
Sayara is liking this new person more and more.
Indeed.
And he just pops the tart. Whole thing in his mouth.
Mix harumps and just says, "Let's go to the coordinator to confirm our suspicions of who put the creature in the parade." Kind of hoarding the rest of the tarts.
All right. Well, Maester Roderick, who you guys had interacted with briefly in the past, certainly might be someone you could probably ask around about. See if you can find any info about where he might be found.
I suppose we should do that.
All right. So, are you guys, do you plan on just asking random people on the street, or is there somewhere in particular you guys want to go to try to check?
I don't know. I'm following Mix. This is his idea.
All right.
Would Nix know where
Well,
they would plan these kind of things?
Well, I mean, Mix, in terms of what you would know about this is, I mean, you know that, the main, when you had the interaction with Maester Roderick in the past and stole his handkerchief, the center of this parade was kind of around the market square. So if there was a place to ask that might have better luck, heading to the main market square of Waterdeep might be the place to ask around. Because that would at least be a part of town that would be more familiar with him, you would assume.
Mix is going to choose to go straight to Mr. Roderick and question him.
Well,
He's
you don't know
Sure.
you don't know where he is there, like you don't know where he lives or where he's at. You just know that when the parade was held, the main part of the festivities was there in the market square. So if people are going to know where to find Maester Roderick, it's probably people in the market square.
Mix is going to lead the party there and ask everybody to look around and try to find information on Mr. Roderick, especially where he lives.
All right. So all of you head up to the market square. It's a usual busy day in the area. The carts and shops are set up all over the place, and there's the usual bustle of people going about their day-to-day business there. There looks to be still like a few of the stands from the parade a couple days ago that are in the process of being taken down. But go ahead and everybody roll investigation as you guys are kind of asking around the people in the area. We'll see what we find out. All right, let's see here. So, asking around and kind of looking around in the area, Jinku, you see, as you're kind of looking around the area, you see an elven woman who is yelling at a food cart, and she seems to be angrily berating this food cart. It seems to be kind of a kebab cart. It's got a large skewer of meat. And she seems to be complaining at the owner of the cart that her meat skewer contained meat. And she seems to be offended by this. And is angrily berating him. Boo, you... Let's see here. Boo, you are kind of walking around and you happen across looks to be a monk, kind of sitting silently in a cross-legged position, kind of against a wall of a building. And you inquire of him about Maester Roderick, and he says he hasn't seen what you're looking for, and then also kind of angrily looks at you and says that you interrupted his prayers. Let's see. Zyara. You talk to a kind of vivacious 6-year-old girl, and you ask her about Maester Roderick, and she says, "No, I don't know anything about that, but I do know something very important." And she kind of motions for you to kind of lean in and to whisper, and wants to whisper at you something.
Okay, I lean in.
Okay, the little girl kind of leans up into your ear and whispers and says, "Did you know that boys and girls have different parts? I didn't know that.
What the fuck?
That's so crazy." And then she kind of runs, and then she runs off. This seems this was very important information to her.
Well, yeah, I gotta learn at some point.
All right. Let's see here. Tordum, you ask around. That was a good one. I like that one. You kind of ask. You're kind of walking around the market here, seeing what's going on, and you come across a. Let's see here. There you go. You happen across a halfling who, as you inquire about Maester Roderick to him, and he just keeps trying to shush you and continues bragging about his hat that he recently purchased, and almost kind of aggressively inquires as to your opinion as to how great his hat is that he recently purchased. And he almost seems to be getting up in your face a bit. So what is your opinion of his hat, Torna?
Is he wearing said hat?
He is wearing said hat. It is a fairly ornate, kind of a long, thin cap. It comes to like a point in the front and back, and of course has a rather kind of violently magenta colored feather sticking out of it. It's almost a little harmful on the eyes looking at it. It's almost obnoxious. But he continues to press you on this and pointing at his hat, bragging about the quality of the workmanship and the price that he paid for it, and demands to know what your opinion of this is.
I'm just gonna step back a little bit, splash the tongue out, and knock it off his head.
All right. So you roll a dexterity check for me. You definitely knock this hat off, and it flies off his head, and immediately, like, his face fills with rage, but at the same time, it also seems to fill with kind of fright and dread at the state of this hat that was so expensive. And he frantically runs off in the direction that it flies off, trying to catch it before it lands on the ground. Mix, as you're asking around, you happen to head over to one of the bandstands, or the grandstands that's still kind of being taken down, and you inquire of some of the workers nearby that are hauling some of the wood away about Maester Roderick and where he might be found. And they mention to you that he is often found in the tavern at the feet of the Great Drunkard. He frequents there quite a bit and is a bit of a regular. And if you're looking for him, you'll probably find him there most hours of the day, happily kind of being among the people of the city and being a bit of a kind of a party-goer people person out and about on the town.
Mix is going to thank them very much for the information, and move off to tell the group.
All right. With that, we're at the halfway point right now, so we'll go ahead and take a quick bio break, get your drink, do whatever you need to do, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Alright, let's see here. Okay. Hello, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, I can hear you. It's just for some reason you're on like a 3-second lag.
Weird.
Yeah, so I'm not hearing you like in real time. I'm hearing you there, and then 3 seconds later I'm hearing you here, and it's really disconcerting.
Hmm. Alright. So. Oh, Riz, you want to mute? There we go. Okay, cool. Alright, so, with the information here, you head towards the Great Drunkard, the giant statue on the southern end of the market, and make your way inside. And you find yourself in the pretty bustling and popular tavern here. And after kind of asking around a bit for... Oh, I got another spammer. Go away. So after kind of asking around a little bit, it doesn't take too long before you're pointed out to Maester Roderick, who is over at the head of one of the larger kind of long tables in the bar. And he seems to be kind of happily chatting it up with the various patrons, having a good time. And he sees you approaching and says, "Ho! Hello, friends! Welcome to Waterdeep. I hope your stay has been wonderful."
Oh, and
nice.
I'm totally waiting outside right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Zara, you and Jiggy are outside, yeah. So it's Boo and Mix and Torta at the moment, inside.
Oh, my dear Mr. Roderick, we met at the parade. I have some questions about a certain mechanical creature that was featured there.
Ah, I see. I am afraid I don't quite remember you, but there were many people, of course, that day. Yes. Many people that day and many things to drink. So I'm afraid I don't recall your face, but certainly mechanical constructs is the... Ah, yes, you must be speaking of the wondrous display with the fish and the water towards the end of the parade. Is that right?
You were talking about the mechanical creature, correct?
Yeah, there were a bunch of clockwork fish floating in, like, conjured rings of water, and they were being controlled by a mechanical man during the parade when you guys were there.
We're talking more about the mechanical man that was controlling constructs.
Ah, the Nimblewright. Yes. They are from... That was the, I believe that was the Temple of Gon's procession. That particular part of the parade was. They always... The Temple of Gon's House of Wonders, they're always bringing fantastical displays to the Twin Parades every year. Always happy to have them, of course. If you're interested in their works or have anything you'd like to know about their the magic that they do and the wondrous things they construct over at their temple, I believe they're located over in the Sea Ward on the western side of town. I'm sure they'd be happy to have you. They would more than happily instruct anyone that comes into their temple on the workings of their machines and their worship.
The Temple of Gods. Very interesting. Mr. Roderick, can I tell you something in the strictest of confidence?
Mr. Otter kind of looks around a little bit and he says, "Well, this may not be the best place for it, but sure, fire away."
Mix is gonna lean down and whisper in his ear and tell him what happened at Troll Skull. And the shenanigans that happened, and hoping that he's gonna finish by saying, I'm hoping you're not a part of it. One of our children was severely injured.
And you see him kind of sit back a little bit in shock and be like, my goodness. I had heard some rumors about some terrible accident that had happened over on that side of town. I can't say that I was involved at all. I hadn't really heard too much about Trollskull as of yet. I remember hearing that some people had moved in, and I think they were repairing it up, but I'm sorry to hear that such a tragedy happened on your opening night.
Mix is going to pass him a gold piece and say, come, drink at our establishment. Your first drink's on me. As long as you keep what I whisper to you an absolute secret.
Certainly, certainly, I'd be happy to drop by. Well, I mean, if you're looking into their nimble rights or constructs to help you around the place, Temple of God would be the place to go. I'm certain with a matter like that, you may need some assistance, so I would certainly check them out. I know that nimble rights can be quite useful in a variety of ways. And one of the other patrons at the table kind of pipes up and says, hey, yeah, I think I've seen one of those at the city armory. There were some of the guard that were dueling with a nimble right like that down there as well. And Maester Router kind of nods and says, ah, yes, I believe I have heard that as well. There are a small number of nimble rights around the city. They're usually quite expensive. I'm actually kind of surprised to hear the guard has come about one. Usually they don't appropriate the funds for that sort of thing. But, I mean, they're somewhat of a rare curiosity, but if you have the money for them, well, Temple of Gone would probably be able to assist. I hope they can help out in however you need.
Can I roll an insight
Yeah.
check to see if I believe what they're telling me?
Yeah, sure. So kind of reading him and the other people at the table, like all the people here seem to be at least somewhat buzzed, in some fashion. They're here kind of rousing things up and having a drink, and they seem to be truthful from what you were saying. They seem to kind of happily tell you this information without any sort of guile or malice in the background that you could tell.
Mix is going to bow very respectfully and be like, Mr. Router, thank you so much for your time. You have no idea how much this helps me, and I hope you become a patron of our tavern.
Certainly.
And all of you will be welcome there. I will gladly, joyously greet you.
Certainly, certainly, my boy. I hope you enjoy your time here in Waterdeep, and of course, if you enjoyed the parade the other day, we hope to see you for other festivities throughout the year. We have quite a number of them. You have a good one, my friend.
Maester, the next festivity, please contact us. I know we would gladly participate in some way. We want to become true citizens of Waterdeep.
That is good to hear. I will drink to that. And he kind of raises his mug here and then toast and takes a swig.
Mix is going to bow and then kind of bow out and tell everybody the two parties that he's learned have these creatures and where they're created so that we could possibly learn more.
All right. What do you all do with this information? You have a few nimble rights you know about now. Temple of Gond and the City Armory, evidently.
Well, I kind of trust the guards so far. So I think we should go check out the Temple of Gond first.
Okay.
Mick, Parbu, for once in my life, I actually have to agree with you. Let's go to the Temple of Gond.
All right. So you kind of make your way out of the Great Drunkard, and you meet back up with Jinku and Zara, who are waiting outside. And in fairly short order, asking around, you find that the Temple of Gond is kind of on the very northwestern part of the city. Let me get you a picture up here. So in the Sea Ward, in this northwestern quadrant, you'll see on kind of near the west gate, there's a pin that you should be able to see on Seawatch Street and Shark Street, the House of Inspired Hands, which is the Temple of Gond. And so you make your way over to this part of town, and kind of coming up the street towards the House of Inspired Hands, it looks almost kind of a cross between a temple and a workshop of sorts. The symbol of Gond, which is their patron god, is a toothed cog with 4 spokes. And you see this symbol of this cog kind of displayed pretty prominently around the structure on like various banners, and in some places kind of engraved into the stone. So while you're kind of walking up this way, you go ahead and roll a perception check for me here as you're kind of walking up towards this place. All right. So, Boo, as your group is making your way up towards the Temple of Gond, you see up on the roof of this temple kind of a silhouette of a kind of humanoid shape perching up on the rooftop. And you see its arm kind of extend into kind of towards the sky. And you see kind of a small, what looks like a bird of sorts, kind of fly out of its hand. And it does a few kind of loops in the air. And after a few loops, it actually turns and veers directly towards you all. Everybody go ahead and roll initiative. All right. So you see this first kind of coming towards you and kind of alert everyone with the start of this. Looks like a small metal bird that seems to be hurtling towards you all. Zara, you're the first to react. You see this kind of small metal bird flying down towards you from the sky. What do you do?
I'm going to get out my crossbow, but not use it quite yet. Just ready it and attempt to dodge out of the way.
Okay. So you're just kind of ready to react if it comes towards you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. How about Torta? See this small metal-looking bird hurtling out of the sky in your party's direction.
Just stand ready.
Okay.
I assume it's too far for me to like jump and hit.
I would say it's probably about 50 feet away at the moment.
Yeah, I'll just be prepared to punch it when it comes by.
Okay. Boo.
I'll take out my wand, and if it hurts anybody in my party, I will use my wand of magic missiles on it.
Okay. All right. So this mechanical sparrow hurtles in your direction. Let's see who we're heading towards. It heads towards Torta. So you see the sparrow kind of loop and hurtle directly towards you, Torta. So as this comes into range of you, I'll let you go ahead and react to that since you had prepared it. Are you just gonna like try to take a strike at it when it gets close?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and take a swing as this zooms into your face, pretty much.
Damn bird's too fast.
All right. So this bird zooms at you, striking you, and as it gets close to you, it seems to kind of falter a bit, and then misses you, crashing into the cobblestones on the street, and breaks into pieces. And as this hits the ground, you see Boo, like you've been, like you notice the figure up on the roof. You notice that it seems to kind of disappear into the roof. You see it kind of go out of sight.
I'll point out where the bird came from to the rest of the group.
Should we get the guard? We were just attacked. It could help us seize this place.
Well, I mean, was anybody hurt? I don't know if we were actually attacked or if the bird maybe malfunctioned.
They also kind of told us to not take matters into our own hands.
Well, if they weren't worthless, we wouldn't have to.
Well, I agree with you, but that's why I'm saying calling them probably is not going to be a good idea.
Did any of you take a look at the remains of this bird on the ground?
Yeah, I'll collect
go.
some.
Yeah, I'll go look at them.
Okay, go ahead and investigate. Yeah, you too, since you guys are gonna look.
It's a bird.
So, Mix, Boo, Jenk, you guys kind of take a look at the remains of this little mechanical bird. And it seems to be kind of a rough construction. It seems to be kind of a simple, mechanical construct of sorts. All the parts in it seem to be kind of mismatched, almost like they had been like from various found pieces or pieces of other things that have been put together to make this small metal bird. It doesn't seem to be of particularly fine quality due to the mismatch of the metals and the parts that are in it. And it seems that, given the rough quality, that seems to may have contributed to it so easily breaking.
It's a Frankenbird.
It is an interesting specimen. I'd like to own a clockwork device like this. We should go maybe take these bits in and see if they can help us.
So do you kind of gather up the parts of this little metal bird?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And with that, do you guys head into the temple?
I will.
Okay. All right. So you kind of make your way into the front door of this temple, and going in here, there's various people that are around, kind of doing their various business of worship, and acolytes as well that are kind of toiling away at various little bits of machinery. You see in the main hall of the temple as you walk in, there are about 24 marble pedestals that are set up. and you see a little sign nearby as you're walking into the room that says the Hall of Exemplary Inventions as you walk in. So among the displays, as you kind of look over these marble pillars, like each one has some sort of mechanical object on it and a little nameplate with some information about what they are. You see that there is a 4-foot tall working model of a clock tower, and it rings at the top of every hour and is made of wood and iron, bronze, glass, has these brass bells and these delicate hands made out of solid gold. You see on another pedestal there is a kind of a small wooden flying machine that has wings that kind of flap on its own there. You see another pedestal that has kind of a miniature model of a mechanical dragon turtle, and it has a brass plate affixed to the pedestal that reads, "Big Belchy sank in Deepwater Harbor on the Day of Wonders, 1363 DR." You see kind of a little, almost a small clothing stand, and it has this helmet resting on top of it that has these uh, small articulated metal arms on each side of the helmet. And the plate reads that this is a waking helmet, and that these small metal arms slap the wearer to help keep them awake on watch. And lastly, you see a miniature model of, looks like a red submarine type device that's shaped like a manta ray, and it has a brass plate affixed to the pedestal that reads, "The Scarlet Marpanoff, a Latinese submersible launched in 1489 DR." And as you're all kind of admiring these various kind of these workmanships in this hall, you see one of the acolytes coming towards you, who appears to be a dragonborn. Looks to be probably a kind of a bronze dragon ancestry with the coloring of her scales. And she comes toward you and kind of bows in your direction and says, "How are you enjoying the beautiful workmanship in our hall of exquisite fineries and inventions here?"
It's quite stunning.
"Yes, well, we all try to do our best work in the service of Gond, the delights and the mechanical wonders of the world, and we are so happy to have these wonderful works of art and worship here on display. Come, what brings you to the Temple of Gond today? How may I assist you?"
Well, we're not entirely sure if you can assist us, but we have noticed what we think is a nimble right in the city that has attacked someone, and this is the only place we could think of that might have information on those creatures.
"Oh, I see. I am sorry to hear that. What happened?"
Um, as far as we can tell, it cast some sort of a fire spell on an associate of one of our friends and caused quite a bit of damage.
"Goodness me. Do you happen to know what the nimble right look like?"
I don't remember, but Zyara describes it to her.
From some of the witnesses that had seen this nimble right, they recall that it had a very long hat, and it also had a very pointed, kind of Van Dyke style beard. It looked like fashioned at the end of its chin. So you kind of describe this to Valletta. I guess I should have introduced that her name was Valletta. This is Valletta. And she kind of thinks for a moment and says, well, I can't say that I've heard of one of that workmanship. I mean, we certainly enjoy nimble rights in terms of, the worship of Gond as mechanical creations, but, they're somewhat rare. Although I heard that there was possibly someone selling nimble rights. We actually had one come into our possession just recently here. And he lives here among us.
Would you be able to tell us who else is currently selling these nimble rights? We're trying to track down anyone who might have the knowledge to make them.
Well, I mean, typically with nimble rights, in terms of mechanics, that is something that we are well and familiar with, but nimble rights have a bit of arcane to them as well that gives them their life, which I'm afraid is a secret that the technomancers of Luskin are kind of reticent to divulge to anyone outside of their group. But as for who is selling them, I don't quite know. The one that we have here was gifted to us by a wizard who worshipped Gond and was traveling through recently. But I know there were a few other members of kind of high society, Waterdeep, that I believe had come into possession of some recently. They may be able to tell you more.
Nix is going to step up. Is there a way to track the nimble rights?
For tracking them, I mean, it's difficult to say. As mechanical beings, they don't really leave much in the way of conventional tracking methods. I mean, if you're trying to figure out who might own one in the city, if you're able to figure out who it is that's selling them right now, they perhaps have records of sale that you could look into. But again, I'm afraid I'm not sure who else might have one in the city off the top of my head. But perhaps if you find out and inquire them, they can direct you to the seller if you are looking to purchase one of your own.
May we speak with the one that was on your roof just a moment ago? It did send a hawk in a threatening manner at us.
And at this, if you mention this, this bird that had flown at your party, and she kind of sighs a bit hearing this, and she's like, well, that would be Nim. He's the one that was gifted to us by the wizard recently. He is somewhat of a troublemaker. He likes to tinker with his own little things here and there, and sometimes they malfunction. I'm sorry if that caused you any trouble. Let me introduce you to him. Maybe he can help in some way. And she kind of motions for you to follow her. And she leads you up this spiral staircase that kind of leads up towards the attic area of the temple. And at the top of the spiral staircase, you find a door, and she goes to open it and finds that the door won't open. There seems to be a lock on the door, and she goes, well, the lock on the door is different than the one the other day. Nim, can you please open the door? Did you fashion a new lock? And she kind of calls through the door, Nim, you kind of hear some rustling inside the attic, but there doesn't seem to be any response, and the door does not open.
I could attempt to open the door for you if you would like.
And she kind of turns to you and says, "Well, I hope not to break it. What do you intend?"
Well, I am a wizard. Do I look like I could break a door down? I'm 3 feet tall, for God's sake.
And while they're saying this, Jinku, who had just like reeled herself back ready to charge at the door, kind of slowly goes back to a normal stance.
Well, if you're certain you won't damage the door, certainly take a crack at it, of course.
I'll cast knock on the door.
Okay.
Which, if it's a mundane lock, it should unlock it.
Yeah, so you cast knock on the door, and you hear kind of a little tink, and the lock unlocks, and you are able to open the door. So, as you kind of step into the attic here, you see this room up here is, somewhat roughly furnished with kind of simple furnishings, and there's kind of a workbench type table, and you can see kind of scattered bits of metal and wire and gears and things that are kind of spread all over. And otherwise, most of the attic is fairly cluttered. There's lots of kind of crates and piles of cloth and things, and you see Boo looking towards like the back of the room. You see one of the piles of like cloth, kind of like a tarp, is moving slightly in the back of the room.
I'll go back there and look underneath the tarp.
Okay. So you kind of head back to this tarp and kind of lift up the edge here, and you see almost kind of cowering shyly under this tarp is one of these Nimblewright creatures, this mechanical man. In terms of appearance, Nim, the most notable thing about his appearance is that it has this kind of hair that is fashioned out of these kind of multi-layered, overlapping metal feather-looking affixations. They're kind of layered across its head and look somewhat like a head of hair of sorts. But it kind of looks at you shyly, and then kind of sees behind you that everyone else has kind of made their way into his room up here, and it kind of stands up and kind of looks at it kind of looks at Valletta and almost kind of like hangs its head a little bit. It seems to know that it's in trouble.
I believe you may have dropped these, friend, and I will give him the bits of the exploded bird that I picked up.
Okay. So you kind of hand these over to Nim, and he kind of responds to you with almost this kind of sign language of sorts with its hands, which you aren't able to understand. But he seems grateful that you brought it back to him, and he kind of cradles the pieces in its hands. It kind of starts poking at them a bit, kind of trying to put some things back together. It sounds like this was some kind of creation that he was trying to work on.
Well, we came up here to see him. We have seen him. Should we leave now?
Nim. Do you by chance know of any of your other kind that maybe aren't as restricted as you? Would you possibly have met them? Just nod if you know the answer.
Nim, kind of looks at you as you're, talking to him here. Then he kind of turns and looks at Valletta and again kind of makes these signs with its hands in Valletta's direction. And Valletta says, "Well, Nim doesn't get out of the temple too much. I mean, it sounds like he may get up on the roof to cause some trouble. We'll have to close that hatch up so he doesn't trouble the populace. But it seems most of his time since he arrived here, he's spent here at the temple, and he's quite adept at fashioning, small clockwork mechanisms, almost after his own kind. But um, they're not perfect. But he likes to tinker with them up here. But I'm afraid he doesn't really know of anything much outside of the temple.
Then, could you tell us who created you?
So again, Nim kind of makes a few signs in Valletta's direction, and Valletta kind of translates that. Well, he isn't certain of the exact person, but he was originally created by some of the Tectomancers in Luskin and was sold to a wizard many, many years ago, and had been in service to him for some time, in terms of just being a helpmeet around his tower, and then the wizard gifted him to us as a kind of a token of appreciation towards Gond. Perhaps he was, looking for favor from Gond for some reason. But aside from that, I'm afraid he doesn't know.
Nyx is gonna look at Mem and be like, Mem, once I master alchemy, me and you need to get together to create some creations. I hope you're agreeable to that. And I hope you understand that we had asked these questions.
You see Nim kind of nod. Like there isn't much expression on Nim's face, being a mechanical construct. His face is kind of just solid. But he nods in response. It seems he may be interested in learning more. It seems he's kind of a curious creature in some ways.
Can any of you think of something else that we need to determine here?
Not with Nim. I am curious though. You said there's someone else that's been selling nibble rights?
Yes, I've heard that there have been a few purchased recently in the city. Who they were from, I'm not quite sure. Perhaps some sort of traveling salesman of some kind has been selling them. But I feel like I heard. Oh, let me think here. Heard some rumor of someone buying one. Let me think. And she kind of pauses for a moment, thinking over where they may have seen one. There was a school, Mother Tamara's House of Graces, which is a finishing school that caters to the young ladies of ambitious families. I believe they recently acquired a Nimblewright. Not sure to what purpose, perhaps as more assistance around the school, but perhaps they might know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the information.
Certainly, certainly. You're always welcome here at the Temple of Gond. We are happy to have your patronage.
Yes. Well, we'll be sure to come here should we need any nibble rights or other kind of clockwork style things.
May I ask,
Mhm.
how much does one of your grand clocks cost?
Well, if you're speaking of the clock down on display in the hall, I'm afraid that one is not for sale. We keep the prized creation from the worship each year here in service to Gond as somewhat of a token to gain his favor. But in terms of other clocks, if you're looking to purchase, many of them can be taken for, the smallest ones go for around 500 gold or so. But if you're looking for something more ornate and complex, they can go, of course, into the thousands.
How much would one be of, well, use the figure of my friend Boo here. And for me to see him getting hurt or banged up every hour.
So somewhat of sort of a mechanical display. Well, if you're looking for a clock with a mechanical display of that type, that would... One like that would probably be more around the 1,000 gold variety for something with that sort of complex machinery.
You know, as soon as I save up that money, I'm going to be back here. As long as you can promise me I can watch him beheaded at noon every day.
That's a bit of an odd request. Does your friend not take offense?
I have no choice but to accept his decisions until such a time as I can be otherwise occupied while he dies.
Valletta almost kind of grimaces awkwardly at this and says, "My, that seems a bit of a troubled relationship you have here."
Well, yes, it is for now.
But it's all in loving hatred.
Something like that.
Well, of course, if you do ever need to have some kind of mechanical workmanship done, we would be happy to assist for the right price, of course.
Thank you. Well, shall we go to a finishing school? I'm sure the two ladies could stand to learn a little bit, at least.
Jinku glares at him.
Mix is going to be really excited and kind of like, I wonder how I can corrupt them.
Okay. So, from the directions that Valletta gave you, the Mother Tamara's House of Graces is located in the Castle Ward of the city. Let me get that pulled up here on a second. Don't know if I have that one marked. Let me see. Where is that? I see. Okay, that's where it's at. Let me get this back up here. Oh my god, so many spammers today. Holy shit. I don't know where they're all coming from.
Well, they all have accounts created just yesterday.
Yeah, I know. They're obviously all spam accounts. But, geez, I usually only have like one, and then that's it, and then they're gone. I've never had this many all at once. In any case, so the school is located just a little north of the market here in Castle Ward. It's almost, I'm afraid I don't have a pin for it, but it's almost straight west of the God Catcher statue of Waterdeep. It's on Mendever Street, which I don't think you can see the label on this map, but there's the God Catcher, and then Herd Lane goes diagonally to the southwest, and Mendiver Street is that larger street that goes north, right there. It's right along there. My God, go away, spammers. But you make it to this school. Yeah. You make it to this school, and at the front door, you're kind of greeted by one of the teachers of the school as you walk in, and she sees you all and says, "Oh, hello. Welcome to Mother Tamara's House of Graces. I'm afraid the school year has already been going for some time, but if you're looking to register someone for the next semester, I can certainly assist. Do you have a fine young lady you would like to bring to our fine establishment here?"
Well, I don't think that they would be all that willing to come, even though I'm sure at least one of them, Jinku, could stand to learn some manners. No, I came to inquire about a recent purchase you had made. A Nimblewright? I'd heard it was exquisite craftsmanship.
Ah, I mean, a bit odd to come around asking for that, but I guess it was a quite nice Nimblewright. It certainly is. We are a bit of a curiosity. I can understand the interest. And she kind of calls into the other room, and this Nimblewright kind of comes in carrying what seems to be some kind of cleaning supplies, like kind of a duster and like a broom and things. And appearance-wise, this Nimblewright has these kind of exquisite halos. There's 8 of them made of what looks like different precious metals, and they kind of are fastened around the head of the Nimblewright, and they all kind of intersect each other at kind of strange angles. But they all have kind of an interesting kind of glint and almost a little bit of like a magical glow to them. It's quite fine workmanship. They're like these very thin, fine halos.
Oh my, that is just as beautiful as we were told. Tell me, where can one acquire craftsmanship as wonderful as this?
Well, they certainly don't come for cheap, but we purchased this. There's a salesman who's been in town recently for the festival recently. Um, his name is Captain Zord. I believe his ship is called the Sea Maiden's Fair. He and his carnival ships are docked down at the piers down in the dock ward. I'm not sure how long they'll be here for, but they were selling them for quite a good price. I mean, usually these Nimblewrights, we've been interested in obtaining one just to have the help around the place that doesn't tire. And in the past, most of the times when we'd try to purchase one, they would usually go for 100,000 gold, if not more. But Captain Zord was selling them for only 25,000, which is quite a steal for the fine workmanship of these. So we almost had no choice but to pick one up for that kind of price.
That is an incredible price. Wow, I think we'll have to go speak with this captain. Um, there's a side note. How much is tuition for your school here?
Well, if you're paying by the semester, it is usually about 1,500 gold per semester. We make sure to cater our learnings to only the highest class and tier of nobles here in the city.
Of course. Well, when I get 1,500 gold, and I will be bringing some youngling by to learn some manners.
Well, we'll be happy to have you then, of course. But I must be on my way. We have classes to attend to. Thank you
Of
for
course.
stopping by, of course.
Yes, yes. Well, guys, let's. I think we should go talk to this Captain Zorn.
Absolutely. He sounds like he's selling nimble rights to people to put him in positions to where he can use them later.
Perhaps. To the dock ward.
To the dock ward. All right.
Onward.
Let me get that map up here. Let's see, that one should be southwest. Here we go. Dockward. All right. So at this point, like with your kind of traipsing around the city here, it's been most of the day at this point. It's probably getting into the later afternoon now. With your travels down to the inn and then to Blackstaff and then the Temple of Gond and out of the school. So as it's getting into the evening, you kind of make your way down into the Dockward, which is somewhat of like the rougher part of town. A lot of travelers come through here, traders, things like that. Just kind of the vagabonds that come through Waterdeep and come and go. And so, since there's so many people without much of a more permanent connection to the city, it seems to be a little bit of a rougher shape. But you make your way down here and down to the docks, and after inquiring around, you're told that the carnival ships that were here for the parade just a few days ago are docked kind of out around one of the larger docks in the port. So like pretty much kind of in the middle of the map here, you can see there's that large T-shaped dock right in the middle. And there's a few, some of the people around kind of point out that the couple of ships that are around there are the Sea Maiden's Fair. The larger one in particular is the Sea Maiden's Fair. But they are all with the carnival and here in town for a week or so they've heard, for the festivities.
I guess we'll head that way.
All right. So you kind of make your way out onto the docks and approach this Sea Maiden's Fair, and you notice that a lot of the seamen that are kind of staffing this ship and in the area are all appear to be drow. They all have the typical darker skin and the pointed ears that you would expect of the drow race. And most of them don't seem to take too much notice of you. They seem to be busying themselves with, whether hauling goods or rigging up the masts and tightening ropes and things. They don't seem to take too much notice of you approaching. There's many people that come and go here in the docks. But you eventually make your way up to the Sea Maiden's Fair and are kind of standing on the dock next to it here, looking around.
Nix is going to prepare his witching bolt spell. He doesn't like drop.
Well, let's go see about maybe inquiring about purchasing a Nimblewright. Maybe they'll be kind of talkative then.
Okay. So you just try to approach one of these drow around here.
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay. Right, so you kind of walk up to one of the drow here, kind of carrying carrying a crate towards one of the ships, and he kind of sees you approaching and goes, "Hello, what brings you to the Sea Maiden's Fair?"
We had heard that there were Nimblewrights available at a phenomenal price here.
And he kind of looks you up and down and kind of looks at your party as well and says, "Yes, yes, our captain has been selling Nimblewrights. Are you certain you have the funds for one? I don't mean to offend, but you don't quite seem to have the look of our usual clientele."
No, I'm not at all certain that I have the funds for one, but I would like to inquire and determine if it's something I should kind of seek after. I really, I'll admit it. I'll admit it. I am just a huge uh, fan of how beautiful the one example I saw was, and well, I just kind of would really like the chance to look at another couple.
Well, he kind of sighs a bit at this and says, "Well, I I'm not sure how interested Zord will be in meeting more of a fan than a buyer, but I can certainly see if he'll be interested in speaking with you at all."
I would of course compensate them for his time. I know that a captain's time is very valuable.
"Well, that may be more agreeable, I guess." And he kind of sets the crate that he was carrying down on the edge of the dock and mentions to you to wait here for a moment. And you see him kind of walk up the plank into the ship nearby and leaves you all standing there on the dock for a few minutes. So, as you all are kind of waiting out here, um, you kind of continue to get, um, like the various drow that are working the ship, they all seem to be kind of giving you sidelong glances. A lot of them are, um, as you're waiting here. I mean, this whole kind of area of town is a little bit, more rough and tumble than where you've been usually fraternizing around recently. But eventually, uh, the drow that you were speaking to returns, and behind him you see a kind of stately looking drow, kind of almost with a swagger, walking down the plank behind him. He's wearing this rather ornate outfit that's kind of this striped purple and gold and green. It's kind of a bit outlandish. And he has a large purple hat with a white feather sticking out of it as well. And it looks to be kind of a rapier of some kind strapped to his waist. And he kind of comes in your direction and says, "Ah, hello, friends. I hear that you are interested in my Nimblewrights. What can I do to assist? How can I convince you to take one home with you today?"
Ha, well, I will be honest. I'm not entirely certain that we have quite enough money for one of your Nimblewrights, even though you are offering, from what I understand, a phenomenal and fair price. I was more wanting to inquire upon one in particular I had seen.
Oh, pray tell.
I will describe how the one we're looking for looks.
Okay. So you kind of describe this to him, and Zord kind of strokes his chin here and says, yes, I know of the nimble right of what you speak. Why are you looking for it?
Mix is gonna start inching around behind the guy while Boo's talking.
I'm trying to decide whether we should be semi-honest with this guy.
Okay.
What kind of vibe you getting from him?
Yeah, can I roll insight and kind of see like what kind of general feeling I'm getting on him?
Yeah, inside up. Go ahead. Okay. So the read that you kind of get off of Zord is it's kind of a general sense of braggadocio. He seems kind of a bit of a kind of an eccentric type character, but you can't. I'd say besides that, you can't really get much of a clear read on him. I mean,
Okay.
He's a bit of a salesman, and you know how salesmen can be. Never quite sure.
Well, it was. I'll admit it was just absolutely perfect. An exemplary example of what I would wish to see in a nimble right of my own. And, well, I figure if somebody purchased something like that, well, there's somebody I might want to get to know.
Yes, I can certainly understand the sentiment there, but while I do know the nimble right of what you speak, I recall selling such a nimble right of that description not too long ago. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to simply divulge the identities of all of my buyers. Many of them are high clientele in the city, and for all I know, you could be wanting their information to go and steal the goods out of their homes. They're all well-to-do people and nobles in notable places in the city, and they may not want their personal information out and about so freely. I'm certain you understand.
Oh yes, I very much understand. Is there any way, and I'll kind of tap at my coin purse like a little bit, you know, like I'm just doing it as I'm talking, and I'll say, is there any way you might be able to be persuaded to assist me in providing that information?
And he kind of lets out a bit of a boisterous laugh as you're kind of tapping at your small coin purse on the side of your leg here, and he says, "Well, if you're looking to buy me off for information, well, of course, the price is a nimble right of your own."
I see.
But it doesn't seem like you have enough in that purse to cover the fee.
Well,
Is gonna
I've
look
got a Kalistar that I would be willing to sell you.
Mix, what were you saying?
While Boo's saying this, Mix is gonna look at Boo with the standing behind the captain with the question of should I? This could end badly, but should I enchant him?
Well, I really want to say yes and see the consequences of that action. I think Boo is intelligent enough to say no.
All right.
Boo's gonna roll a normal charisma check against this guy to try to convince him that he really wants to give him the information.
Are you trying to do like a persuasion?
Whatever charisma is.
Oh, I see. You're casting friends on Boo.
No, I didn't cast friends yet. I'm just trying to do charisma check.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Yeah, I guess go ahead.
Convince him to give us the information we want without casting friends, because
Okay.
he's a dro. There's a ship full of dros. If he gets hostile, this could get bad quick.
Well, I guess in that case, go ahead and just roll a regular old persuasion check since that's charisma. Oof. So Mix, you try to implore Captain Zorg of your Boo's interest in these nimble rights and how much you would like to have this information, but he does not seem very convinced, and he kind of looks you up and down, looks Boo up and down, and says, "Well, I think it's plain to see that you don't have the means to meet the end of the deal if you're looking to purchase, so I'm afraid I must be on my way. Sure, you
And
understand."
Jinku's gonna step up and be like, "How about you give my friend the information, or I'm gonna punch you in the face," and I'm gonna try to intimidate him.
Okay. All right, so Jinku, you step up with this threat, and he kind of lets out a sly grin at you. He as he looks at you, Jinku, he says, "Madam, you are certainly large in stature and threatening, of course, but I'm afraid," and he kind of looks around at the other, drow that are here on his ship. He says, "I'm afraid you may be at a disadvantage here on this ground. I might advise you to back down."
And sir, I might advise you to not call me madam again.
He kind of raises an eyebrow. Says, "Well, I do not wish to make any trouble, of course, but I think the receiving end of the trouble would be more on your own ends, but I'm afraid I must take my leave. Time is money, of course, and it seems that you do not have any."
Mix is gonna grab the guy, cast friends, and be like, "You want to tell us everything that we want to know."
What is what's the save? Is there like a save for that, right? Wisdom or something?
No, I just have advantage. Why didn't it that? That didn't roll as advantage. Hold on.
Y'all are gonna get me killed.
There we go. That rolled to his advantage.
Okay.
It gives him advantage on all charisma checks, and he's basically able to influence the guy until the spell ends.
Yeah.
But basically, when the spell ends, we need to run.
If I remember right, does he have like a wisdom save against that?
For the duration, you have advantage on all charisma checks directed at one creature of your choice that isn't hostile towards you. When the spell ends, the creature realizes that you use magic to influence its mood and becomes hostile towards you. A creature prone to violence might attack you. Another creature might seek retribution in other ways, at the DM's discretion, depending on the nature of the interaction. And the duration is 1 minute.
Okay. Let's see here. 1 second. things here real quick.
I don't like
Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's see. Alright, so you cast Friends here on Captain Zord. And it looks like it does manage to take hold on him. But as yeah, at you know, the other drow that are all around here are watching this happen. And they see you go in and cast this. And as you touch Zord to cast that, you hear the sound of a variety of weapons being drawn around you.
Mix
Good
is gonna
going, Mix.
ask quickly, who bought that Venimble right? Just tell me real quick, and we'll be on our way.
And at that, you see Zord kind of look at you, be like, "Ah, yes, my good friend. I'm afraid I don't have the name, but I have the records inside the ship, of course, of sail." And at the beginning of next session, we'll roll initiative on what's going on in here right now. So we will call that a good stopping point for tonight.
Shit.
That's not gonna be good.
Or we can all run and leave Mix to deal with his problem.
I love it. Love it.
Oh no, this dude is still charmed. I mean, he's my friend. I'm gonna run with you.
Yeah, but all
is
the others
charmed,
around
but
him are
all
not
of-
charmed.
Yeah, there's an entire army of Drow that are now pointing their weapons at us.
I don't
I
give
mean,
a crap. They're
I
not
like to
charmed.
smash things, but I really
Charm
vote
is not
run.
some like magic spell that gets you everything you want.
No, Friends is a great spell.
To everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Let me just ask you this.